The Senate last week resolved to direct its Constitutional Review Committee to put in place machinery to amend the Constitution to allow for the creation of state police, what we were talking about earlier. It also resolved to call on security agencies to stop involving themselves in politics. These resolutions were, however, preceded by heated arguments among lawmakers, as most of them contributed to a point of order raised by Jonah Jang, PDP Plateau.
So in one word, there's just a lot going on in the polity now. There's just so much.
There talk about state
policing, we'll talk about the budget, we'll talk about the herdsmen, farmers, you know, we'll talk a lot of things going on. How do we get it right?
That is the question. And that is why we have a solid panel here this morning. We have two legal practitioners, Mr. John Oloyede on my left and Mr. Chima Nnaji on my right. Somebody actually sent us a tweet the last time you were here that he likes listening to your parables. And we also have a social commentator, Mr. Ezekiel Etok.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you all for joining us this morning. Now, I'm sure you all are up to speed about all that's happening in our country. And the latest talk now, apart from elections in Ekiti, of course, is this call for state police. A call which was shut down a few short years ago, which now seems to be gaining a lot of traction. Let me begin with you, Chima. Please, no parables this morning. What are your thoughts about Nigeria having state policing?
Well, just to begin with, there has to be parables. In order to communicate in a nutshell what should have taken me 3 hours to explain. When the breadfruit ripens, it must fall. There is nothing as good as something which time has come. Okay. That's the interpretation. In past years, there were those agitations. Some of them were called names, those who were, because it is completely an aberration that you choose and pick what will be part of the federation. Federation has a format, both in law and practice. And like a doctor who prescribed drugs, you have malaria, I say take malaria capsules, take multivitamin, and then drink water. Because the multivitamin is sugar-coated, you go for that one and leave the main drug that is the active, that contains the active ingredient that will address the problem. Okay? The state police, county police, local government police, university police, institutional police is well known as part and parcel of federalism. Like the body, the head is at the head, but it doesn't do what the hands do. And even the hand has fingers. So when the hand is on top of something, the fingers can also fidget. That is federalism. But the control has not been lost.
Okay.
So federalism and state police system
go together.
And what reference can we make? The manifestation became so apparent in what happened at Ekiti State recently.
Okay. Ezekiel, your thoughts? State police.
Yeah, it's very interesting because a few days back, I was a lead speaker at the Nigerian Bar Association Week, the ceremony that held in Uyo, and the topic had to do with federalism. And one of the people I quoted in my paper was Governor El Rufai in 2012. He said Nigeria is a federation without federalism, you know. And I found that very instructive. There are, like my brother has said, there are basics, fundamentals. If you call an institution a school, there are certain things you expect to see there. Yeah. If you have a parliamentary system of governance as different from presidential, there are things that make it presidential. There are things that make it parliamentary. Now, when you come to a federation, You have a center that coordinates basics, and you have federating units.
Yeah.
Actually, I discovered again that Nigeria is actually the only country in the world, from my research, that has a third tier of government. Usually you have the center, and then you have the federating units. And then Nigeria now has a third tier of government. They call it local government. Why it is not part of the state is we're trying to find out why that is so. And then you now have primary health care under the federal. You now have basic education. That should have to do with my village being coordinated from Abuja. I mean, it's just an aberration.
It is.
And then you now talk of policing. What is policing? Policing is an English word which has to do with being able to monitor. And it's just commonsensical that
your village cannot be monitored from Abuja.
It just doesn't make sense. And then you now have a state that provides certain infrastructure. The state will give cars to the police because the cars are resident in the state. The state will give administrative blocks because they are built in the state. But if you understand policing and you understand intelligence, it has to do with manpower training. Why will I be governor of Akwa Ibom State, train Alero, who in the next few days might be posted to Kogi State? So the states are not investing in manpower training. They are busy giving cars, they are busy giving, upgrading, and
which will remain in the states.
Remain in the state. But if you had the state police, the governor can afford the luxury of training the personnel
as well,
knowing that they will rotate, and then they will even go ahead, like my brother Chima said, you even have university police, so you can even send it that far. And the best security is the one that you know that the next man is seeing you and he knows you. You come into a community, the community people, they know who is who. Yeah. So if something goes wrong, it's easier. But you just posted man from Samvara to my village, and he doesn't even understand the language. He's in a place, the robbers are planning where they are going to attack next, and he's laughing with them. Malam, take beer. And he's like, oh, nice people. Meanwhile, they are planning the next attack in the presence of the security operative.
Some of the people who seem to be against the state police, they mentioned a lot of factors. Yes, there will be the abuse. Yes, the states that can't even pay salaries want to fund policing. Mr. Oloyede, what is your own take when it comes to state policing?
Well, my take, of course, I support the move to actually amend the Constitution to allow for the country to properly have state police. So that taking it from there, you see, for every change is the most difficult thing to confront in any society. We've been with this unitary form of policing in Nigeria since inception, and it's been so difficult to convince people. Like Chief said, it's an idea that has ripened. It must happen. Now, taking it from a more practical perspective,
must fall off the tree when it is ripe.
In fact, it has fallen. It has fallen. So we now have to manage the situation on ground. Now, I like using practical points to highlight why the pros are more than the cons. I mean, the advantages of state policing are much more than the disadvantages. You see, for instance, in practical terms, taking it from where he left off, he said you train some people and ultimately you discover that they have to be posted to Kano. In real terms, what happens in Nigeria today is you have a very serious matter. It's been charged before the court. The accused persons are before the court. The investigation police officers suddenly for whatever reason, I mean, because people don't want that case tried, they don't want people convicted, they suddenly get transferred somewhere else.
Posted out.
And the judge or magistrate becomes handicapped.